everybody. It's Helen Hillix, your host from My Heart to Yours, and Helen Hillix on YouTube. And I am coming to you today to talk about the coronavirus like so many other people are. But I feel like there needs to be even one more voice on the side of sanity about how to handle this challenge that we're all facing now all over the world. So the first thing I want to say is don't let fear and ego run your life. Take the opportunity to have this be an opportunity to do things differently, to see things differently. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking already of one of the benefits that one of my clients brought up today, which was that it's bringing the world together. We have a common goal all over the world. Now, I know that China is blaming the U.S. Army and so forth, but we do have a common goal to try to preserve as much life as we can and hopefully share wisdom and information. And this is maybe the first time, I'm not a history buff, but it could be the first time we've ever had something that has been so unifying around the world. So I'm just throwing that out as the first thing that pops into my mind. But I want to ask you, how would you like to handle this crisis in a new way from the way you've handled any other crisis in your life? How would you feel if you learned how to feel strong in the face of huge challenges like this? How would that feel to you? What helps you do that? What tools do you need? I'm going to break it down for you in this podcast video. So I really hope you'll stay to the end and get all the juicy, powerful details of what it takes to have a completely different response to this than you're seeing in the media or your neighbors. I just had a client text me who's stuck in a nursing home, and she thought she was going to get it's a rehab. She fell down and hurt herself, and she thought she was going to be there a few days. But now, with the lockdown basically that's happening in facilities, she can't leave for 2 weeks, and she's completely freaking out. So it's everywhere. So how would you like to learn how to not be in that state of mind? First, let's talk about what's happening on the simplest level, on the simplest spiritual, emotional level. And what's happening is that the ego is having a fit. I didn't think about how this relates to the global unification issue, but that too is making the ego have a fit. It's like there are no nations now. It's like we're all in this together. No matter who wants to pretend that the boundaries exist of nations, they really don't in a situation like this. So the ego is having a fit because our physical, financial, social existences are being threatened. And our primitive fears of survival are being stirred up, and the whole world is freaking out about it because every person's individual and collective egos are all freaking out about our survival. My survival. Am I going to die? Is my mother going to die? Is my sister going to die? It's all very focused on me and what's going to upset me. And not everyone, thank goodness, is feeling this way, but many, many, many people are. So let's just take a moment right this second and take a deep breath. And take one more deep breath. And take that in, that it's really natural that we all have some level of fear about this because every one of us has an ego. And there's no way to get over that, to get rid of that. Some people talk about we got to kill the ego. Well, you're never going to kill the ego because it's part of you. And it is the part of you that tells you that you are separate from everything else, that you shouldn't go out into traffic because, walk out into oncoming traffic because it will kill you, because the ego is in charge of making you aware that your individual survival is based on their signals, their awarenesses. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes when, after the ego has alerted you that there is a danger to your survival, then we keep letting the ego run us. That's the problem, that you're letting the ego run you and making you terrified, instead of saying, thank you, ego. You have alerted me that there is a survival threat to my finances, my social structure, my physical life. In a very simple way, my physical life is being threatened. And thank you very much for that alert. And now you've done your job, and now I'm going to rely on my spiritual, emotional, intellectual wisdom and strength to guide me from here. Because the ego is stupid. The ego is reactive. The ego is hysterical. The ego is desperate. But if you can take a breath and say, thank you for the alert, and now I'm going to turn over my responses to the whole self, to the wiser self. I'm going to listen to what the experts tell me. I'm going to do research. I'm going to see what I'm guided to do from a place of higher consciousness and not the desperation of my ego. So I know I mentioned this, I'm going to mention this later in the talk, but I want to mention it too here, is that I'm not stupid. I know people are going to die. Maybe millions of people will die. I don't know. I mean, I think the good news is that places are shutting down pretty quickly before there are millions of people with the virus. And I know it's inconvenient. I know it's costing people jobs. My own son-in-law works building the stage sets for big events, operas and concerts and business conferences and so forth. And that's how he makes his living. And of course, he has no work now because all of that has been shut down. My stepson, works in a beautiful, huge, fancy hotel, and he works in the restaurant bar aspect of it, and they're empty. They're not shut down, but they're empty. So he's making no money, and they may shut down. So I understand it on a personal level, and I know that people are afraid because, even if they're not fearing that they're going to die from the virus, they're thinking, what will it do to my 401k? What am I going to do for work? What am I going to do for food? Where am I going to find toilet paper? People are all hysterical about finding toilet paper. And I too want to make sure I have enough toilet paper. So, and also there are all the thousands and maybe millions of people who depend on income from concerts and parades and so forth, all of which are canceled. So I'm not naive in knowing that there are tens of millions of people who are already severely impacted. And I know that that number will grow. So the ego says, how do you not panic? Well, again, you realize that it's the ego that's dominated you, and then you shift. Then once you realize that, then the shifting can begin. And the first thing that I want to say is, I know you've all seen this probably, that comparison that the Chinese symbol for catastrophe is the same exact symbol for opportunity. And it just depends on the context of the sentence, how it's being used. And that's this situation, guys, is that this can be an opportunity too. You can have a huge awakening during this challenging time. It doesn't have to take you down. It can lift you up. It can help you expand your spiritual strength, your emotional strength, your creativity. It can do so many things for you, but you have to make the choice that you're going to focus on it as an opportunity and not give in to the hysteria all around you and in the media. So if you're with me, then we're going to move on into how you can do this, some practical steps. But first you have to make an intention. That's the first step. So what does it do? What does it mean? And what can you do? So we're going to get down to some really simple steps that are simple but not easy. One of them is managing your mindset. I know you hear this is really a trendy way of saying that you can make a choice where you focus your energy. To me, that's what managing your mindset means, is that you are conscious of the fact that you can make a choice where you're going to focus your energy. You can let the ego dominate you and be hysterical and reactive and upset all the time. And of course, I've heard this from numerous healthcare professionals that, of course, what does that do to your immune system? To be hysterical and stressed out all the time. We all know that. It weakens your immune system. So guys, it's not smart. It is not smart to let yourself give in to that hysteria. It's so interesting because I'm taking these deep breaths, because as I speak about this topic, I can feel myself connecting to all the panic and all of the hysteria that's around me too in the world, not in my own home, but it's out there. And I read the news and I get lots of information, get lots of connection with my clients, some of whom are freaking out. So it's so important. I mean, that's one of the main things you can do, is to stop and take a breath. And one of the things I'm recommending that my clients do right now is to put an alert on your watch, and at least once an hour, stop and breathe for a minute. And breathe in that way, not just breathe, but breathe in conscious, deep breaths in and out, reminding yourself that you are still breathing. And what a centering, powerful tool that is. And you can call it spiritual, you can call it physical or mental, whatever you want to call it. It's a powerful tool to just stop and focus on deep breathing. So what are some of the other things that you can do during this time? Now, I want to make a distinction because it's interesting. There is a whole group of people right now that are going to have a lot more time on their hands, like my stepson and my son-in-law. And, other people. My husband is a scholastic and life coach tutor with children. And, I don't know whether they're going to be working on Zoom or what they're going to be doing. And so, he may have a lot more time on his hands. It doesn't seem to be affecting how many clients I have right now, but it could. People could stop seeing me in a panic situation, because they're panicked, instead of getting the support they need. But you may have a lot of time on your hands if you're in a certain segment of the population. And then on the other side, there are people like my sister, who is a nurse manager in a hospital, who is just working insanely now and will be probably for months to come. And, for those people, they are not going to have the time to do these things that I'm talking about. But I think a lot of us will have the time to do these things. And whether or not you have a lot of time, I think one of the things that you can intend to do to elevate your mood and your intention in this challenge is to focus on what you can do to make a difference. And, that is something, whether you have time or you don't have time, whether you're in the direct service industry of hospital and healthcare workers, or whether, firefighters, EMDs, whatever your work is, EMTs, I'm sorry, or whether you're off work because your place is closed down. Focus on how you can be of service. And even if you are housebound, one of the ways that you can be of service is not spreading the hysteria. Just let that sink in for a moment. Everyone gets to ask themselves, how can I be of service? And even if you're housebound, you can be of service by not feeding the hysteria. So if you're in that situation of having to spend a lot of time at home, you can do a bunch of other things that I'm going to mention real quickly. There's extra time for connection. take advantage of that. Make this a sacred time with your partner. Spend time having sacred rituals, building your intimacy, appreciating one another, because you could be dead tomorrow in a very real way now that you might not think of most of the time. But right now, just feel the preciousness of that connection with yourself, with your loved ones, with your children, with your animals, with your life. And let yourself reflect about your life, your relationships, your health. Are you taking care of your health in general? You know, people who are healthy and active and eat well and get the right nourishment are so much less susceptible than the great majority of our society that doesn't. So think about that. Appreciate the health you do have, and maybe this will be a wake-up call to help you really get yourself into a more healthy state of being. Awesome. Think about whether you're living in the right place in the world. You know, maybe this is a wake-up call to say, you know what, I've always wanted to live in Alaska. Now's the time. I'm not saying today. I'm just saying let these awarenesses come to you, and maybe you can act on them when the crisis is over. Time for projects you've put off. What a great time to clean your garage or clean out your closets, to declutter your house, and to let yourself feel the chi, the healing energy flowing through your home. You know, maybe you want time to journal about things that you want to process that you haven't had time to do. Maybe you want to start writing a book or making a video. You know, you've got time to, you may be one of those people that has time to do that. And time for exercising, time for preparing meals. You know, there are so many things, and don't let me underemphasize the opportunity that this presents for upping your spiritual practice. Whether that means breath work, meditation, reading the Bible, reading the Quran, you know, whatever it means to you, this is a time when you really can benefit from upping your spiritual practice. And if you don't have one, this is a time to get one, guys. This is a time to get one, because it's that spiritual practice that is going to help you stay centered. Whether, even if it's the spiritual practice is hiking in nature, you know, you can still go outside and hike in nature so far, unless you're quarantined. But those of us who are not, you know, you can still go out. And if that's your spiritual practice, to get out into nature, as long as you're, you know, not really close to other people, do that. It will help you ground yourself in a higher wisdom. So those are all things that you may have more time to do. And again, whether you are, you know, crazy busy or whether you're unemployed with lots of time, stay in the moment. That's the second step. The first step is to intend to make this an opportunity rather than a crisis, a catastrophe. It is a crisis, but rather than a catastrophe, let's see it as an opportunity. The second step is to stay in this moment. You know, I tend to have anxiety and worry about things in the future, but right now I'm really strengthening my ability to stay in the moment. You know, even if my income is threatened, even if my daughter, you know, who has lung issues is, you know, seriously ill at some point, I get to stay in this moment. Because you know, all we do when we are panicking about what might happen is that we're adding to the negative energy in the collective. We're adding to the hysteria. And this goes back to, how can I be of service? How can I help? Well, you can help by staying in the moment and seeing what you can do. Maybe there's a neighbor who can't get out, and you can go to the grocery store, text them, leave their groceries on the porch. You don't have to touch them or be near them, but maybe there's something that you can help do. And, you know, we all know this, but a reminder that fear and panic make us do stupid things. They make us behave in stupid ways, and they then trigger other people to behave in stupid ways. And I can just hear you saying, but you can die from this. You know, well, yes, you can. And you might die, and I might die. we all are going to die at some point, aren't we? We've all known this all our lives. So it's like, try to remember that I'm not saying to be stupid. I'm being conscious about the choices that I make by staying in the moment. Okay, in this moment, what is the right thing for me to do? You know, in the next moment, what is the right thing for me to do? And that helps me stay calm. And that leads into the third step, is make conscious choices. You know, make choices from consciousness and not panic. And if you stay in the moment and you intend to have this be an opportunity, then this third step is going to be easier, which is to, you know, do the research, find out what the expert guidelines are, you know, research several places so that you're not just reading, and be aware of where you're getting your news, guys. Is it the Center for Disease Control, or is it some far out thing telling you to drink lemon juice? You know, it's like, be aware of where you're getting your news and use the guidelines. And then number 4 is cherish each moment of each day. If you are focused, and I know you've heard this too, but if you're focused on gratitude, then you can't be focused on fear. If you're focused on gratitude, and if you have to make an ongoing list during every single day of what you're grateful for, that's going to help you stay grounded, and that's going to benefit you. So cherish each moment of each day. And in that cherishing energy is being grateful for the breath you're taking, being grateful for whatever you can be grateful for. And, you know, there's always that saying, there's always somebody who has it worse. And it's so true. There's always somebody that has it worse, and there's always something you can be grateful for. So be grateful. And number 5 is to do the best you can to relax into reality. Realize that this, on a spiritual level, that this is coming from the universe to support our evolution. Even, you know, whether you believe it happened for a reason, quote unquote, or you just believe it's random evolution, you can still learn from it. And that's how we embrace the challenge of facing reality, is that we see it as an opportunity for growth. And I know I started with that, and I'm going to end with that, is, you know, to embrace the challenge as part of reality, and that you can learn from it. You know, are you learning that your job, although mind-shatteringly impossible right now, like an RN or MD, is absolutely your mission and passion? Or are you learning that you hate your job and you're going to change it the minute you can? You know, this is an opportunity for clarity, for clarification. So, you know, embrace what you can learn. And that goes back up to some of those steps before, but facing reality and letting yourself be changed emotionally and spiritually, strengthened by this experience. And then the 6th one I actually made into a separate step is relax into this reality. Some of you will die, and there's nothing that can be done about that. I may die. I said that already. We all die sometimes, but while you're living, embrace the opportunity, cherish each moment, and relax into reality, making the most you can of it and getting all the support that you can. You know, I didn't really make a separate step for that, and I probably should have, but I'm going to throw it in here at the end, that get support. Get support, get support. When you notice yourself being panicked, get support. And that may be doing mindfulness, maybe breathing, maybe drawing pictures, writing in your journal. Those are all things that you can do that are supportive to you, but you also need to get support from other people. And thank God we live in an era where there is virtual reality and, you know, virtual video conferences, and there's so much that can be done. And you know what? I anticipate that this is going to change the way our workforce functions, because people are going to realize that they can function remotely. And it's such a benefit to so many people, and it will eliminate some of this. Of course, the office buildings will be empty, but anyway, that's a whole other story. So let's just relax into the reality, get the support we need, and be a blessing to the world instead of a panic monger that's making everything worse. Let's turn it around and become a blessing to the world that is offering calm and peace and consciousness in the midst of chaos. Okay, I bless you all. I'm sending you all kinds of love and healing chi. And, God willing, I'll be right back here next week. Bye.